Elena's footsteps echoed through the empty corridor as she approached the Emergency Security Council meeting. Outside the windows, Volari ships hovered like obsidian daggers against the blue sky. Military leaders from a dozen nations turned as she entered, their faces ashen under the harsh fluorescent lights. "Commander Reyes, our options?" General Hammond asked, his voice barely masking his fear. Elena straightened her shoulders. "Our conventional weapons are useless against their shields. Direct confrontation would be suicide." The Russian representative slammed his fist on the table. "Then we surrender? Become slaves to these creatures?" "No," Elena said, pulling up Dr. Chen's data on the main display. "We buy time. Something about their technology doesn't add up." The holographic display showed energy patterns from the Volari ships, strange oscillations that pulsed with unexplained irregularities. Most of the council members stared blankly at the readings, but the Chinese military attaché leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "These patterns suggest inefficiency," she said. "Advanced technology should be more elegant." Elena nodded. "Exactly. We need intel, and we need it fast." 3 hours later, Elena found Marcus in his lab beneath the Pentagon, surrounded by holographic projections and half-empty coffee cups. He barely looked up when she entered. "The Council approved our mission," she said, dropping a security badge on his desk. "We have 5 days to gather intelligence, while the diplomats pretend to negotiate surrender terms." Marcus finally looked up, dark circles under his eyes. 5 days to find a weakness in technology, centuries beyond ours. No pressure. "You saw something no one else did," Elena said. "Trust your instincts." The lab door slid open as a team of specialists filed in, the best minds in physics, engineering, and signals intelligence, all looking equally terrified and determined. "The Volari have agreed to let us maintain essential services while disarming," Elena explained. "That gives us access to global sensor networks. I want every piece of data on their ships, weapons, and communication systems." A young engineer raised her hand. "How do we transmit findings without them detecting us?" "Old tech," Marcus replied, pulling out equipment that looked decades obsolete. "They'll be watching for quantum encryption and neural networks, not radio waves and copper wire." Outside, the evening sky darkened as more Volari ships entered atmosphere. News reports showed alien delegates landing in capital cities worldwide, their tall, armored forms towering over human diplomats. High Commander Zaxel's voice played on repeat across global broadcasts. "Resistance is pointless. Your civilization is obsolete." Elena studied the alien leader's scaled face on the monitor, noting the subtle twitches when Earth's atmospheric conditions were mentioned. Another potential weakness? The next morning, Elena and Marcus boarded a transport plane with equipment, disguised as medical supplies, their official mission establishing humanitarian corridors in preparation for surrender. Their actual goal, infiltrating close enough to a Volari landing site to gather unfiltered data. As the plane lifted off, Elena watched Washington, D.C. shrink below them, Volari ships casting long shadows across the National Mall. Somewhere on those vessels was the key to humanity's survival, a flaw, a weakness, anything they could exploit. "We'll find it," Marcus said quietly, following her gaze. "They think they know us, but they don't. That's their mistake." Elena nodded, her jaw set with determination, and it will be their last. The abandoned subway tunnels beneath Chicago provided perfect cover, damp walls absorbing sound and thick concrete blocking alien scanners. Elena wiped sweat from her brow as she helped Marcus set up their makeshift laboratory, salvaged equipment, stacked alongside stolen Volari technology. "Status report," she asked a gaunt communication specialist hunched over a jury-rigged radio. "Resistance cells established in 16 major cities," he replied, voice hoarse from lack of sleep. London and Tokyo went dark yesterday. Johannesburg and Mexico City reported successful raids on Volari supply depots. Elena nodded, marking locations on a paper map. No digital signals to track. 3 weeks had passed since the invasion, and humanity's situation grew more desperate daily. Above ground, Volari extraction machines stripped Earth's resources with frightening efficiency. A commotion near the tunnel entrance drew her attention. A team of resistance fighters dragged in something massive covered with a tarp. Their expressions, a mixture of fear and triumph. "We got it," announced Captain Rodriguez, pulling back the tarp to reveal mangled Volari technology. Scout ship crashed during the thunderstorm. We reached it before their recovery team. Marcus approached reverently, hands hovering over the alien metal. "Did anyone touch it without protection?" "Negative. We used the insulated gloves like you instructed." Within hours, Marcus had the ship's components spread across their workspace. Elena watched him work, his hands steady despite the stakes. Scientists and engineers gathered around, whispering as Marcus revealed each new piece. "This doesn't make sense," he muttered, examining a propulsion component. "The exterior housing is Volari design, but the core technology..." He traced strange symbols etched into the metal. "These aren't their markings." Dr. Nilsson, a materials scientist, pointed to the different components. "The metallurgical techniques are inconsistent. These parts weren't manufactured by the same civilization. They're scavengers," Marcus realized, excitement building in his voice. "They didn't develop this technology. They stole it." Elena understood the implications immediately, so they might not fully understand how it works. "Exactly," Marcus confirmed. "They're using technology without comprehending its principles, like someone driving a car without knowing how the engine functions." That night, Elena gathered the resistance leaders in their underground sanctuary. The room buzzed with renewed hope as Marcus explained their findings. The Volari present themselves as technologically superior, but they're essentially operating stolen equipment, he explained. More importantly, they're hiding a significant biological weakness. He projected images showing Volari soldiers avoiding certain areas, deep underground spaces, underwater facilities, caves with high mineral content. "They're hypersensitive to Earth's electromagnetic field," Elena continued. "Their protective suits shield them, but if we can disrupt that protection..." A former Navy SEAL leaned forward. "How do we use this?" "We need more minds," Elena decided. "Scientists, engineers, hackers, anyone who can help us understand and exploit these weaknesses." Captain Rodriguez nodded. "My team found a Volari communications relay near the lake. If we capture it intact, we could intercept their transmissions," Elena finished. "Maybe even tap into their network." As the meeting dispersed, Elena studied their growing resistance map, small dots of human defiance against overwhelming alien occupation. The odds remained nearly impossible, but for the first time since the invasion, they had something the Volari didn't expect: understanding of the enemy's fundamental weaknesses. "They think we're beaten," she told Marcus as they prepared for the communications relay raid, but humans have always been most dangerous when cornered. Dr. Aisha Okafor worked methodically in the converted subway maintenance room, now serving as the Resistance's biological research lab. The captured Volari soldier lay restrained on a metal table, its scaled skin glistening under harsh LED lights. Unlike the imposing figures seen in propaganda broadcasts, without its armor, the alien appeared almost fragile. "Remarkable," she murmured, recording observations as Elena entered. "Their cellular structure reacts violently to electromagnetic fields we barely notice." Elena studied the soldier's pained movements whenever Aisha activated a simple magnetic device. "Can we weaponize this weakness?" Theoretically, yes, Aisha replied, adjusting her protective goggles. Their suits provide shielding, but if we create a strong enough electromagnetic pulse calibrated to specific frequencies... A commotion interrupted them as Marcus burst into the lab, clutching a tablet. Elena, we cracked their encryption. You need to see this now. They hurried to the command center, where resistance members huddled around displays showing intercepted Volari transmissions. Maps highlighted multiple planetary systems, each with Volari invasion forces deployed. They're hitting 3 civilizations simultaneously, Marcus explained, pointing to the data streams. Earth isn't their only target. Elena studied the tactical displays. They're overextended. That's why they've committed relatively few ships here, despite their technological advantage. There's more, Marcus continued, switching to a different data set. They're not just conquerors, they're harvesters. They strip planets of specific resources and move on. According to these schedules, they plan to complete Earth's harvesting in 18 months. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. 18 months until Earth became an empty husk. Can we contact these other invaded worlds? Elena asked. Marcus hesitated. Maybe. The Volari use quantum entanglement for instantaneous communication between star systems. If we can piggyback on their signal, do it, Elena ordered. If they're fighting on multiple fronts, we need to coordinate. Later that night, Elena found Aisha analyzing tissue samples from the captive alien. Any progress? Beyond the electromagnetic sensitivity, they have another weakness, Aisha explained, displaying microscopic images. Their cellular regeneration relies on specific compounds not native to Earth. Without regular supplements from their ships, their soldiers would physically deteriorate within weeks. Supply lines, Elena realized. If we disrupt their resupply operations, their ground forces would weaken considerably. Aisha confirmed. 3 days later, resistance members gathered for a critical briefing. Elena stood before maps showing Volari installations worldwide. We've made contact with resistance movements on the other invaded worlds, she announced. They're facing the same challenges, but together we've identified critical vulnerabilities. She outlined their discoveries. The stolen technology the Volari didn't fully understand, their biological weaknesses, and their overextended forces. Our first coordinated offensive begins next week, she continued. While resistance cells on Proxima B and Tau Ceti attack their command structures, we'll target their supply operations here. Captain Rodriguez raised his hand. My team completed reconnaissance on their Chicago distribution center. Security is heavy, but we found access through the old water tunnels. Good, Eleanor replied. Dr. Chen, status on the electromagnetic disruptors? Marcus stepped forward. First prototypes ready for field testing. Range is limited, but they should disable Volari protective suits within 20 meters. As the meeting concluded, Elena received an encrypted message from the Proxima B resistance. Confirmed alliance. Joint operation greenlit. May your stars shine bright. For the first time, humanity wasn't fighting alone. The Volari had made a critical strategic error. They had united their enemies across star systems, creating an interstellar resistance they never anticipated. Lightning split the sky above Chicago as Eleanor led her team through flooded tunnels. Beneath the Volari outpost, rain hammered the city, providing perfect cover for simultaneous strikes occurring worldwide. 6 resistance fighters followed her, each carrying Marcus's electromagnetic disruptors, devices cobbled together from salvaged Volari components and Earth technology. Approaching target, whispered Rodriguez through their secure comms. Motion sensors detect 12 Volari inside the compound. Elena checked her watch, synchronized with resistance cells globally. 60 seconds to deployment. Verify suits are properly insulated. The plan was daring but simple. The electromagnetic disruptors would temporarily disable Volari protective equipment, rendering them vulnerable to Earth's natural electromagnetic field. If successful, they could capture valuable technology and free human prisoners without engaging in direct combat. They couldn't win. 30 seconds, Elena counted down. Remember, we need at least one communication module intact. Rodriguez positioned, his disruptor against the concrete foundation. In position, 4 other team members confirmed their positions surrounding the outpost. Elena nodded to the technician beside her, who began the activation sequence. 3, 2, 1, now, 5. Electromagnetic pulses activated simultaneously, sending invisible waves through the structure above. For 3 breathless seconds, nothing happened. Then screams, the unmistakable high-pitched wail of Volari in distress. "Move in," Elena ordered. The team breached the outpost through pre-identified access points. Inside, they found Volari soldiers, writhing on the floor, their protective suits flickering and failing. The resistance fighters worked methodically, securing the aliens with insulated restraints and gathering technology. "Command center secured," Rodriguez reported. 6 humans freed from holding cells, all alive. Elena entered the command center, quickly assessing the alien technology. "Download everything from their systems. We have 8 minutes before their reinforcements arrive." The mission concluded with perfect precision, in and out in under 7 minutes, with no resistance casualties. As they retreated through the tunnels, reports flooded in from around the world. Sydney, London, Nairobi, Buenos Aires, all reporting successful operations. Back at their underground base, Elena addressed the expanded resistance. New faces filled the room. Freed prisoners, new volunteers, and even a few military personnel who had escaped Volari processing centers. "Today marks our first coordinated victory," she announced, displaying a global map showing successful strikes. 38 Volari outposts neutralized, hundreds of humans freed, and critical technology captured. Marcus stepped forward, already analyzing the stolen Volari communication module. "We've acquired direct access to their tactical network. We can track troop movements, supply shipments, even command decisions." A young woman pushed through the crowd, barely 18, with intense eyes and quick movements. "Commander Reyes," she said, voice steady despite her age. "I'm Mei Zhang. Before the invasion, I was a competitive programmer. I've been studying their communication protocols since they took my parents." She connected her laptop to the system, displaying code that made Marcus's eyes widen. "I've been in their network for weeks, but couldn't do much without proper equipment. With this new module, you can help us predict their movements," Elena finished. "Better," May replied, fingers flying across her keyboard. "I can feed them false information." The celebration was short-lived. All screens suddenly switched to a global broadcast. High Commander Zaxel, eyes burning with cold fury. "Humans of Earth," his voice boomed. "Your resistance has been noted. Observe the consequence." The broadcast cut to a satellite view of Rio de Janeiro. A blinding flash erupted from a Volari ship, and the entire city vanished in apocalyptic fire. Millions gone in an instant. "Your continued defiance will result in more demonstrations," Zaxel continued. "Surrender now, or watch your world burn city by city." Elena met the horrified gazes of her team. The Volari had escalated beyond imagination, but they had also revealed something crucial. They were afraid. 6 months of relentless warfare had transformed the resistance from scattered cells into a cohesive fighting force. Their underground headquarters beneath the Alps hummed with activity as Elena studied holographic projections of the massive Volari command ship hovering above Moscow's ruins. Despite the destruction of Rio and 3 other major cities, humanity refused to surrender. "The ship's shields rotate frequencies every 17 minutes, Elena explained to her strike team. "We'll have a 6-second window to deploy the modified cloaking technology." Captain Rodriguez examined the entry point schematics. "Once inside, We'll have 20 minutes before their systems detect the intrusion." The mission represented their most ambitious operation yet, infiltrating a Volari command vessel to extract critical intelligence. Using technology reverse-engineered from captured equipment, they had developed temporary cloaking capabilities that could mask their approach. "Remember," Marcus cautioned, "prioritize the data core. We need their strategic plans more than we need prisoners." 3 nights later, Elena's team approached the command ship in a modified transport vessel, its signature masked by technology May had developed. Snow swirled around them as they maneuvered through the Moscow night. Above, the massive Volari ship loomed like a dark star, its surface rippling with energy shields. "Shield rotation in 30 seconds, the pilot announced. "Cloaking systems ready." Elena steadied her breathing as the countdown reached 0. "Activate now." The transport shimmered, temporarily invisible to Volari sensors. They slipped through the momentary gap in the shield harmonics, landing in an auxiliary maintenance bay. The team deployed swiftly, using electromagnetic dampeners to disable internal sensors. "We're in," Eleanor whispered, leading her team through the vessel's labyrinthine corridors. 18 minutes remaining. They encountered minimal resistance. The Volari, overconfident in their shield technology, maintained a skeleton crew. The few guards they encountered fell quickly to electromagnetic weapons that rendered their protective suits useless. In the ship's communication hub, Marcus worked feverishly to download data while Elena secured the perimeter. Glowing symbols streamed across his tablet as he broke through layer after layer of encryption. "Elena," he called suddenly, his voice tense, "look at this." The display showed tactical data unlike anything they'd seen before. Massive fleet movements in a distant star system, desperate battles against crystalline ships of unknown design. "These aren't Earth operations," Marcus explained. "The Volari are fighting a major war in their home system against someone called the Nirathi. That's why their forces here are stretched thin," Elena realized. "Earth isn't their priority, survival is." Alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. "Time's up," Rodriguez warned. "We need to move now." The extraction proved more difficult than their entry. Awakened to the intrusion, Volari soldiers converged on their position. Elena's team fought their way back to the transport, electromagnetic weapons creating a path through the disoriented aliens. They escaped with seconds to spare, their vessel diving through a closing shield gap as Volari energy weapons scored its hull. Back at the Alpine base, Marcus's team worked tirelessly to analyze the stolen data. Elena coordinated with resistance cells worldwide, sharing their discoveries about the Volari's divided attention. 2 days later, when the Volari launched a massive assault against the Alpine headquarters, they expected to find humans cowering behind primitive defenses. Instead, they encountered hybrid weapons, combining Volari energy technology with human ingenuity, adaptations their rigid military doctrine never anticipated. The battle raged for 14 hours, turning the mountainside into a scarred battlefield. When the smoke cleared, the resistance remained standing amid Volari wreckage. The invaders had suffered their first major military defeat, and the tide of war had begun to turn. Elena stood on the edge of a reclaimed Italian village, watching. Resistance fighters install electromagnetic field generators around the perimeter. Their network of liberated territories had grown steadily since their victory at the Alpine base. Across her tactical tablet, green markers indicated similar human strongholds worldwide, small islands of freedom in an occupied planet. The Volari are adapting, Marcus warned, joining her on the hillside. Their newer suits show improved electromagnetic shielding. "But they still can't match our rate of innovation," Elena replied. "Show me the latest." Marcus unfolded a detailed map of Volari patrol movements. "Since we started using guerrilla tactics, their response time has increased by 40%. They're pulling forces from secondary outposts to reinforce primary targets. Elena nodded thoughtfully. They don't understand why they can't predict our movements. Their military doctrine relies on overwhelming force and technological superiority, not adaptability. The Resistance had embraced this advantage fully. Rather than establishing permanent bases that the Volari could target, they operated in fluid cells that struck quickly and vanished. Hybrid weapons combining Earth ingenuity with captured alien technology gave them combat capabilities the Volari never anticipated. Dr. Okafor's report came in, Marcus added, showing Eleanor a detailed biochemical analysis. The biological countermeasure is ready for deployment. This represented their most ambitious weapon yet, a specially engineered compound that amplified the Volari's electromagnetic sensitivity. When released into their environmental systems, it would render even their protective suits inadequate against Earth's natural field. Begin production immediately, Elena ordered. Distribute deployment protocols to all major cells. Their conversation was interrupted by May's urgent transmission. Commander, you need to see this. High Commander Zaxel just ordered his reserve fleet deployed, all of it. Satellite imagery showed thousands of additional Volari ships entering Earth's atmosphere, far more vessels than intelligence suggested they had available. They're committing everything, Elena realized, emptying their secondary staging areas to crush us once and for all. Why now? Marcus wondered. Even with these reinforcements, they're still fighting a war on two fronts. Elena studied the deployment patterns, recognizing desperation in the Volari movements. The Nirathi must be gaining ground in their home system. They need to secure Earth quickly or risk losing both conflicts. Within hours, resistance leaders worldwide gathered via secure communication channels. Elena outlined the situation with cold precision. The Volari are abandoning their measured approach for an all-out offensive, she explained. They'll target our known strongholds simultaneously, hoping to eradicate organized resistance in a single campaign. Captain Rodriguez's face appeared. On screen from South America, my cells are already reporting increased aerial activity. Looks like they're preparing for major drops. Then we give them targets, Elena decided. May, feed them intelligence on our primary bases, the decoy locations we've prepared. The young programmer smiled. Already done, Commander. Their tactical networks are absorbing our false data. They're diverting significant forces to locations where we've planted electromagnetic traps. Elena addressed the resistance leaders directly. This is the moment we've been preparing for. The Volari think their superior numbers will finally break us, but they're walking into a trap of our making. Deploy Dr. Okafor's countermeasure to all infiltrated Volari environmental systems and prepare for Operation Thunderstrike. As the meeting concluded, Marcus studied Elena's expression. You think this will work? It has to, she replied, watching distant Volari ships positioning for their massive assault. Because they've just made their biggest mistake. They've shown us exactly how afraid they really are. Operation Thunderstrike unfolded across 12 continents simultaneously, humanity's coordinated counterattack against the Volari offensive. Elena directed operations from a mobile command center, watching as electromagnetic traps decimated alien forces lured to false locations. Dr. Okafor's biological agent, deployed through captured Volari environmental systems, rendered thousands of alien soldiers incapacitated as their protective suits failed against Earth's natural field. Eastern Hemisphere reporting 70% success rate, Marcus announced, relaying data from resistance cells worldwide. Western Hemisphere at 65% and rising. For 3 days, the battle raged without pause. The Volari, committed to their all-out assault, couldn't withdraw without losing face. When they adapted to one human tactic, the resistance shifted to another, displaying a flexibility the rigid alien command structure couldn't match. On the 4th day, As Elena coordinated strikes against a Volari supply convoy, alarms blared. Throughout the command center, May's voice came through with uncharacteristic tension. "Commander, multiple unidentified vessels just appeared in high orbit. Not Volari design. Nothing I've ever seen. Satellite imagery showed crystalline ships emerging from what appeared to be tears in space itself, their structures flowing like liquid glass. Even the Volari fleet seemed momentarily frozen in confusion." "The Nirathi," Elena whispered, recognizing the description from stolen intelligence. "They've tracked the Volari here." Within hours, the situation evolved from complex to chaotic. The Nirathi ships targeted both human and Volari positions indiscriminately, their weapons capabilities far exceeding either faction. Major cities already damaged by the war disappeared beneath crystalline energy bombardments. "They're viewing us all as contaminated," Marcus theorized, analyzing Nirathi attack patterns. "To them, we're just another species infected by Volari." Influence. Elena made an immediate decision. "We need direct contact. If they're fighting the Volari in their home system, we have a potential ally." Using modified Volari communication technology, they broadcast continuously on frequencies the Nirathi might monitor. For 26 hours, nothing changed. Then, without warning, a crystalline shuttle descended near their position. From it emerged Ambassador Kelvin, a being whose translucent skin revealed flowing energy patterns beneath. The meeting occurred in neutral territory, with Elena representing humanity while Volari forces continued their desperate offensive nearby. Kelvin studied the humans with glowing eyes that shifted colors with each movement. "Your species fights using our technology," the Nirathi observed, voice melodic despite the tension. "Technology stolen by the Volari generations ago." Elena nodded. "We adapted what we captured. The Volari understand how to use your technology, but we've learned to improve it." Kelvin's skin pulsed with blue light. "Surprise," Elena guessed. "Impossible. The Volari have possessed our technology for centuries, yet barely maintain what they stole." Elena activated a tablet showing human modifications to Nirathi designs, improvements made in mere months that increased efficiency by significant margins. She explained how humans had combined Earth science with alien principles to create innovations neither civilization had developed alone. "Your adaptability is unexpected," Kelvin admitted. "Perhaps you merit observation rather than cleansing." The negotiation continued for hours, eventually resulting in a tenuous agreement. The Nirathi would cease attacks on human positions and focus exclusively on Volari forces. In exchange, humanity would return all recovered Nirathi technology and provide assistance against their common enemy. As Kelvin prepared to depart, the ambassador studied Elena with shifting rainbow eyes. "You understand, human, that your species remains under evaluation. Prove your worth in the coming battle." "We intend to," Elena replied, watching the crystalline shuttle ascend. Above, Nirathi vessels began systematic attacks on Volari positions worldwide, their devastating weapons cutting through alien defenses like paper. The combined human-Nirathi assault on the Volari stronghold in the Himalayas progressed with devastating efficiency. Crystalline ships cut through alien defenses from above, while human ground forces, equipped with hybrid weapons, pushed through mountain passes toward High Commander Zaxel's fortress. 3 weeks of relentless combat had reduced the Volari presence on Earth to this final redoubt. Elena led her strike team through a hidden tunnel network beneath the fortress, guided by intelligence from May's infiltration of Volari systems. Beside her moved Kelvin, the Nirathi ambassador, insisting on joining this final mission. The alien's translucent skin pulsed with anticipation. "Your tactics continue to surprise," Kelvin observed, as Elena bypassed a security checkpoint using a method no Nirathi would have considered. We would have approached directly, relying on technological superiority. That's why humans survived when others fell to the Volari, Elena replied, checking her hybrid weapon. We excel at finding unexpected paths. As they penetrated deeper into the fortress, Marcus communicated through their secure channel. Elena's sensors detect massive energy buildup in the central chamber. The Volari are activating something big. Stolen intelligence files identified the threat immediately. A terraforming device capable of rendering Earth's atmosphere unbreathable to humans, while allowing the remaining Volari forces to escape. They had 20 minutes before activation. Became irreversible. We need to move faster, Elena urged her team as they encountered increasing resistance. The final approach to the central chamber became a desperate race against time. Volari elite guards, their protective suits enhanced against electromagnetic attacks, forced the strike team to rely on conventional tactics. Elena lost 2 team members in a brutal firefight that left the corridor strewn with bodies from both sides. 14 minutes remaining, Marcus warned, as they reached the sealed doors of the central chamber. While Kelvin worked to bypass the security systems, Elena studied the fortress schematics one final time. There's a maintenance shaft that provides access to the control room. It's too small for the Volari, but a human could navigate it and draw their attention from the main door, Kelvin understood immediately. A diversionary tactic. Elena nodded to Rodriguez. Keep them occupied here. I'm going through the shaft. The narrow passage proved even tighter than expected, forcing Elena to shed her equipment and proceed with only a sidearm. She emerged behind a processing unit just as Kelvin's team breached the main doors, drawing all attention to the dramatic entrance. Through the chaos of flashing energy weapons and crystalline shields, Elena spotted High Commander Zaxel at the terraforming controls, his scaled face contorted with desperate determination. The device hummed with increasing power, atmospheric converters preparing to flood Earth's air with compounds lethal to human life. Elena moved silently across the chamber, years of resistance operations guiding her steps. When Zaxel sensed her presence and whirled around, energy weapon raised, she was already within striking distance. Your invasion failed the moment you underestimated us, Elena told him, her weapon pressed against his throat. Deactivate the device now, the Volari. Commander's eyes narrowed with hatred. You think victory is yours? Even if Earth survives, the Empire will send more ships. You've won nothing but temporary reprieve. Actually, Elena countered, revealing intercepted communications on her tactical display, your superiors have already decided Earth isn't worth the resources. They're blaming you personally for the failure here. Doubt flickered across Zaxel's features as he recognized authentic Imperial communications, discussions of his planned execution upon return, strategic withdrawal from the Earth sector, reallocation of fleet resources to the Nirathi front. With his empire abandoning him and defeat inevitable, Zaxel made his choice.